All right, guys, welcome to another episode of Running with Wolves. I'm really excited about this week's episode because it's really all about how the smallest changes when it comes to your marketing or your sales can create a massive difference. And I'm going to kind of tell you guys a client story that I had the other week happen, where I had one of my clients basically come to me and tell me that for some reason she wasn't getting any leads, thought it was a marketing issue, was like, I don't think I'm saying the right thing, looked at a series of information that we're going to talk about right now, and then come to find out it's actually a sales process issue. And after we made one sales process change, she saw 7 leads in 24 hours. So I, number one, want you to be encouraged by this episode of like truly how much can change in such a short period of time. But I also want you to recognize the information that you need to be looking at to ultimately figure out like what is wrong with your marketing or your sales and be able to fix it. I always tell my clients, being able to diagnose what your issue is as to why you are not seeing sales is honestly the number one skill that I actually think that you can master as a business owner who's either doing their own marketing or approving the marketing that their team does, all that good stuff. Because what you have to understand is not getting leads doesn't necessarily mean that your marketing is broken, right? This episode is really meant to be, like I said, a reminder that sometimes the reason why you're not converting has nothing to do with what you're saying and everything to do with where you're sending people after you say it. So to give you a little bit of context before we kind of dive into this client case study, this Accelerator client is a web and brand strategist and designer. And she started working with me, I would say a couple months ago, maybe 2 months ago, and really thought, like I said, messaging was her issue. She thought she wasn't saying the right things to get people to inquire. But when I dug into her business, what I saw was that she was getting a shit ton of link clicks, you guys. And this person, it's not like she has a small audience. She's got, I want to say about 10,000 followers on Instagram and maybe like 20 on TikTok. So she has a great sized audience. She does done for you stuff. And then she also teaches designers to scale really successfully. So when I looked at all of her data, what I realized was that every single day on TikTok, on Instagram, she's getting hundreds of clicks, especially on like the work with us side of things for like the brand and web design and strategy, and on the designer side of things to teach them how to scale a really sustainable business. And even though she was getting so many clicks, she wasn't getting any inquiries or conversions, which was really, really weird. And so what we kind of uncovered was honestly the thing that changed everything. So I'm excited to walk you guys through it. So let's kind of get into things. You guys know that I really love talking about mistakes that people are making in these areas first. I said this in my last episode, and I still very much believe that it rings true, is that you cannot know the right thing to do unless you know what you're doing wrong, basically, what your mistakes are, right? So I want to kind of jump into some mistakes that people are making, business owners are making when it comes to this area so that you don't make these same mistakes, and then we can talk about what you should be doing, okay? So number one, assuming that no leads equals bad messaging. If you listen to a lot of my episodes, you will probably draw a very like common thread between a lot of the mistakes that I talk about, which is assumptions. I truly believe, just like curiosity killed the cat, assumptions killed a business owner or killed the business, right? Because the second you start assuming that one thing is the issue is the second you go down this rabbit hole of, oh, I should be implementing XYZ solutions with no real proof that that's the case. And I have seen assumptions like this derail business owners' sales for months, if not a year, right? I've had business owners who come to me 6 months after they have been trying to figure it out on their own. I'm like, yeah, we could have solved this in literally like 2 weeks, you guys. So please, 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 if there is anything that I impart to you, do not assume that you know what the issue is as to why you're not seeing marketing results or sales results. Look at the data first, okay? When leads slow down, the first instinct that most business owners have, though, like with this one key area is to assume that it's their messaging, right? A lot of people will basically say, oh, I must just not be saying the right thing to activate them. I need to sell more. I need to handle objections. I need to do something, right? So they start overthinking their captions, rewriting all of their sales pages, or cranking out more content to try to say something better. But more content doesn't necessarily solve a broken sales process if that is the issue. And for my client, she had amazing content. Like I said, like we'd been working together for probably maybe like 6 weeks when this happened. So her content was smart, it was strategic, it was well targeted. She was saying the right things to the right people, but she wasn't getting results because her audience had nowhere to go. Her buyers had nowhere to go without her knowing it. For product-based businesses, a lot of times this can look like dropping more TikToks, batching more UGC, adding more aesthetic feed posts while your product page isn't doing any selling, or it's laid out funky, or maybe your checkout link is broken, right? There's no urgency, there's no positioning, there's no conversion, but it could be just the simplest thing that fixes it. Number 2, confusing a traffic problem with a conversion problem. So like I said, this client was getting hundreds of clicks per day. The demand was already there. Her content was working. But when people landed on her website, they hit a wall. It was really interesting when I was on a call with her that was supposed to be a 30-minute call. It was my last call of the day. And I was like, do you have an extra 30 minutes? Because I just want to like get into this right now. Like I just want to fix it. So she's like, yeah, absolutely. So we're looking at her data. We're looking at all of her sales pages, all the things. I click on the link that they're supposed to go to when they land on the link that's in her bio, right? For the done for you side. And I'm looking through this and I'm like, I thought you only had one inquiry form. And she was like, well, I have the sales page that the inquiry form lives on. And I'm like, that's your problem right there. Because I had her install Microsoft Clarity, which is very similar to Hotjar. So it's basically just recordings of people browsing her website. It's different like heat maps, different things like that. And what I saw was that people were clicking onto that page, scroll, looking at the whole page and clicking right off. So I'm looking at this sales page that she has up. And I'm like, what the fuck is this? And I didn't even know that she had this as part of her sales process. It basically was speaking to like who the buyer was, which mind you, the people who she wants to do like brand strategy, web design, all the things for are very successful business owners, right? She's a high ticket brand and web strategist and designer. And so for a lot of them, they're very assertive buyer types. So like they don't really want to read a whole sales page. They want the quick and dirty information about what the service involves. If you're going to give them ROI, they're in, they're out, they're making their decision, right? So that's problem number 1. Problem number 2 was that and we'll get into this in just a second, and this kind of goes hand in hand with like mistake number 2 and mistake number 3, the next one we're going to talk about. She basically made it so that her sales page incorporated all the information about her service, who it was for, problems it solved, everything about her different packages down to the exact pricing, right? And the problem with that is that when she first came to me, and this is something we're still actively solving, but her marketing really wasn't doing a lot of selling for her. And so people have their interest piqued by things that she's talking about right now, but her marketing hasn't pushed them through the funnel all the way to the point where they're like, oh, hell yeah, I have to work with her no matter what the price point is. And so they were seeing the price and they had nothing to tie it to as far as value or ROI goes. So they couldn't justify it in their head. So they were immediately clicking off of the page. It wasn't like a demand issue. It wasn't a delivery issue as to why they weren't actually inquiring. They just didn't want to put up with a super long process, number 1. Number 2, it was more so like a conversion issue. And then number 3, they had nothing to justify the price point with. So for product-based businesses, a lot of times this looks like you like running a paid ad or going viral for your TikTok shop, right? But your homepage confuses people. Your call to action button is buried. There's no clear buyer journey. You cannot, like, good marketing does not replace a broken sales process. That's point number 1. Point blank period, put it on my tombstone, right? Okay, number 3, like I said, this kind of blends into what I was just talking about, but making your audience do too much work to buy from you. Your buyer is smart, but they're also really, really busy. So if you make them read like a 3,000 word page and compare packages and click between tabs and then fill out 2 different inquiry forms, they're going to be gone. Especially for my people who are selling like high ticket services or even luxury products that are high ticket prices, you cannot expect these people to be doing God's work trying to figure out all the details of your product or your service. We have to stop expecting people to navigate complex sales pages, sales processes, marketing just to give us their money. Because if it is not an easy purchase, they will go elsewhere. And then for product-based brands, a lot of times this can look like having too many collection categories, needing 5 clicks to check out, or even like not giving buyers an easy way to understand what product is right for them. A lot of times this can even look like I remember I was looking for something the other day. I forget what I was looking for, but it was a product, and I landed on this one product and I was like, oh, okay, that's really interesting. Let me go look it up. Go look it up on their website. I had to click off of like 6 different things. Give me your email for our welcome list, or for 15% off. Do you want to join this, that, and the other? Can you accept the cookies that are on the website? Like, oh my God, how many buttons do I have to push just to access the product itself to get the information I need to decide if I want to buy it or not? And honestly, I stopped halfway through and I was like, this is not worth my time. I don't have time to do this right now. I'll come back to it later if I really want to. Guess what I didn't do? Go back to look at that product. You cannot make your sales process super complex if you are expecting people to effortlessly buy from you. Mistake number 4 is thinking that your sales page should explain instead of sell. So this client, like I mentioned, her sales page was full of information. It was timelines. It was deliverables. It was timelines, it was deliverables, it was price breakdowns, but it wasn't selling. It was really interesting. It was almost like she was trying to mitigate a sales conversation, but not conveying the value of the service, just what was included. It wasn't highlighting the transformation it would provide, the ROI, creating an emotional buy-in, handling objections, differentiating her process, right? So when someone landed on that page, they got pricing, they got numbers, but they didn't get a real reason to move forward. The sticker shock of the pricing, because again, she is a high ticket service provider, hit them before they had anything to tie that value to. And so because of that, they ended up clicking off and not inquiring. So for product-based businesses, this a lot of times can look like, for example, if you're a candle brand, right? And you say like 100% soy hand-poured 8-ounce jar. Cool. What does that mean? What does that mean to the person who's trying to buy that from you? And you're trying to slap a $60 price point on that? Absolutely not. Your buyer isn't just buying a candle. They're buying a vibe, a mood, a brand. Like, where is the storytelling? What is it going to do for them, right? Why are they paying $60 for a candle when I could go to TJ Maxx and buy one for $5, like 60% off, right? And then mistake number 5 is letting price do the talking before the value is established. Now, in an ideal world, if she had been working with me for like several months, her marketing would have already done this for her, so it probably wouldn't have been as big of a deal. However, I have a lot of people ask me, like, should you put price point onto your website straight off the bat? And my answer is it doesn't really matter, but it kind of does. You have to adjust your marketing for whatever you do. I am not a fan of putting no pricing, and I'm not a fan of putting exact pricing on your website. The reason being is because oftentimes most business owners do a really poor job at communicating the value and the impact that their product or service provides. And so because of that, if you put exact pricing on your website, again, exactly what happened to this client is going to happen to you, where there is no justification for the pricing in their head, and they're going to click off and like opt out of the sales process before they even have a chance to talk to you, right? If you put no pricing on your website, 2 things will happen. Number 1, you will frustrate the qualified leads that you actually get in your audience. And number 2, you could potentially attract more unqualified leads because you have basically people seeing your content, being activated by it, having no concept of what it is that you charge or how expensive your pricing is until they either get to the checkout link or have a sales conversation with you. In which case that would be a waste of your time because they wouldn't even be qualified to work with you because they can't afford your services or your product, right? So I always say give people a range. So for a lot of my clients, unless you're obviously a product-based business, then you obviously have to put the pricing there. But like, let's say it's in, your content, you can say like, we have, women's apparel that ranges from $50 to $200 or something like that, right? excuse me, this client had all her packages and pricing laid out before people even had a chance to connect what the value of her service was. When people don't understand what something is worth, 5, 10, 20K packages, they will opt out. And the same thing happens with, like I said, product-based brands. You list a premium product without context and the buyer scrolls right past it because they don't see the benefit. They don't see the transformation. They don't see the impact. They don't get, why do I need this now? Anytime you sell a luxury good, your fight in your marketing is making it not like a nice to have, but a have to have. And so being able to showcase the value of why they need it now is huge in being able to justify that price point. So going back to one of those mistakes that we talked about, which is almost like misdiagnosing what the issue was, right? Remember how I kind of talked about like clarity around what your true issue is incredibly important when it comes to your marketing and to your sales. Because if you don't know what the problem is, you are going to spend months, if not years, implementing solutions that don't get you the results you want and ultimately lose trust with your audience. So I kind of want to play out what would have happened if she tried to fix the wrong thing, because I was really, really glad, obviously, that she was working with me when this came up, because if she hadn't been working with me, she would have assumed that it was her marketing, right? Like she would have kept tweaking her captions, rewriting her content, guessing at what to say to like quote unquote pull in more leads. Honestly, she probably would have made things worse. She would have diluted a message that was already working. She might have gotten more clicks, but they probably would have been from the wrong people. Or worse, she would have confused people who were already interested. That like spiral of not being able to figure out what the hell was going wrong, it would have eaten up a whole other month of her progress. More effort, more burnout, more like, why the hell is this not working? And that's why, like I said, an accurate diagnosis really matters. Because like I said, not only does it save you that time, that effort, that energy, but it also preserves the trust that you have with your audience. Because if they see you like bebopping all over the place with your marketing, it's very clear that you don't know what you're doing. And I think that it very much decreases the level of authority and expertise that you hold in their eyes. And so it's really important for you to know before you implement any sort of solution with your marketing what the exact problem is, so you can see results faster and so that your audience continues to trust you. Trying to fix the wrong thing, in my opinion, doesn't actually just waste time, it compounds the problem. You don't need to throw out the whole strategy. Sometimes you just need to ask, is this a marketing problem, or is my sales process the one slowing me down? And look at the data to confirm what you think that it is. So with that being said, let's talk about how you do know if it's a sales process issue, right? So let's kind of break it down here. If you are getting traffic, but no inquiries, and you are selling every single day, but no one is converting, you're handling objections, you're doing all the right things, you're creating urgency in your marketing, could be a sales process issue. If people are clicking your links, but ghosting after the landing page, which that's why having like unique links for all of your platforms, all your different products or offers in the link in your bio, having things like Hotjar or Microsoft Clarity installed is so important because it gives you more data, more clarity around what's going right and what's going wrong, so you can get that information and know that it's correct. Could be a sales process issue, right? You keep getting DMs asking questions that your website should be answering. Could be a sales process issue. If people compliment your brand but never buy, and again, you're doing all the right things in your marketing, sales process issue. If you're booking calls but they don't close because they're underqualified or unclear, but you're spending all your time in your marketing calling in the right people, sales process issue. For product-based businesses, if you see abandoned carts but no conversions, absolutely could be a sales process issue. If people heart react your stories on Instagram but never really purchase, and again, you're doing all the right things in your marketing, could be a sales process issue. If you get, oh my God, I love your stuff DMs, but they never check out, could be a sales process issue. And if your repeat buyer rate is really low, despite a lot of visibility, could be a sales process issue. These are not marketing issues. If you are doing everything properly on that side, they're sales process breakdowns and fixing your messaging when the real issue is friction or confusion in your funnels is like repainting your car when the engine is dead, or like renting a really crappy apartment because that's all that you can afford and spending tens of thousands of dollars on luxury furniture. Doesn't make sense. It's pointless, right? So now that we've kind of talked about what her key mistakes were, how to identify what a sales process issue really truly is, let's talk about what we did instead of just trying to shift her messaging to create results like this. So, number one, ditch the clutter. We actually got rid of that really long sales page that she had. She still has it. It's just private. It's just internal, basically. And I replaced it with one just clear, direct application to work with her, to have a sales conversation, because she was okay with having like a few conversations, especially because she's really picky about the projects that she takes on. She has to make sure that they're qualified leads. Like the conversation needs to happen on her end no matter what. It's not like she has to have a conversation to close them. It's that she needs to have a conversation to make sure that they're the right fit for her and kind of like vibe check a little bit. Instead of guessing, instead of having friction, instead of having distractions, we positioned that application as like an invitation, right? It wasn't like, oh, book a discovery call with me. It was like, can you please tell me about your business so I can make sure that we're the right fit? And then if we are, I'll reach out and we can have a conversation about potentially working together. It was easy to capture interest that way because most people are looking for more information about what working with her looks like anyways. And most people really appreciate when they're going to make an investment that is that large, really taking the time to get to know their business to make sure that they don't just invest willy-nilly. This like really simple shift made the process feel a lot more personal, feel a lot more valuable, and so people already trusted her right off the bat. Then, like I said before, we added a pricing range, not a menu. People still need to know what they're walking into to make sure that you're not wasting your time. Like I said, if we had just not put any pricing on there, she probably would have been having conversations with people who straight up could not afford her service. And that's a waste of her time, especially because she's a mom, she's a busy business owner, she manages her team. We need to basically cut down the amount of conversation she has as much as possible to make sure that every conversation that she has is qualified, is ready to invest, and then on top of that, knows who she is, trusts that she's the only person that they want to work with, and that she can create the best results, etc. On top of that, we're letting the marketing do the heavy lifting. Like I said, all of the marketing tweaks that we're making right now are really going to help make this process that much easier as time goes on. But until that has kind of caught up with her current audience and her buyers, we also have to make sure that we fix the sales process in the meantime. So instead of trying to make her sales page basically do all of the work, we restructured her content to basically speak specifically to the value of her service. ROI was huge for her target audience. So we made sure to really emphasize the services that she offers and how they create an impact and ROI in people's businesses, the problems they solve, and then real social proof so that people knew like, hey, the ROI she's talking about is legit. So that by the time that somebody hit their inquiry form, they didn't need to be convinced. They basically just needed to raise their hand and be like, hey, I'd be interested in hearing more information about how you can help me with this exact thing. So because of that, within, no joke, you guys, 24 hours of making that one sales process change, she had 7 qualified leads fill out an application to work with her. And now we've been talking and she's like, honestly, like the leads are kicking on that side. I talked to her this morning on the day that I'm filming this, not the day it comes out. And she was like, honestly, I'm pretty shocked by how good the leads are that are coming in from TikTok and how frequently they're coming in, just given the fact that that has never really happened for me. So I'm really excited. I'm really impressed. Like, I can't wait to basically keep this up. What you need to remember is that like her audience, again, didn't need different messaging. They didn't need more education. They just needed a simpler path to say yes to her. And the best part is that her traffic didn't really increase at all. Her content didn't change. She wasn't putting out more content. Yes, it was more refined, and obviously those things are helping. However, she just finally created a sales process that matched the level of demand that she already had. The right people are inquiring. Oh, no, hold on. Now her marketing and her sales process are working in tandem. So the right people are inquiring. She's spending less time chasing and more time closing. And if she had kept trying to like, quote unquote, fix her marketing, she would have wasted weeks talking to the wrong pain points, tweaking messaging that was already working, and wondering why she still wasn't seeing results. Remember, and I hope that this is the thing that you guys take home. If there's nothing else that you remember about this episode, you have to know the problem you are solving for before you ever try to fix it. So if you are getting clicks, but no conversions, you're making good money, but for some reason you want more clients, maybe you're getting really, really great referrals. I don't know, maybe you're making $30,000, $40,000, $50,000 per month, but you want to double the amount of sales that you're making. And for some reason, it's just not clicking. It reminds me of that TikTok quote where it's like, what's not clicking, Steven? Right? Same thing. If it's for some reason just not clicking and you have been trying to figure out for so long what is wrong, I want you to be like this client and ask questions, get support, get somebody in your corner who can look at this and say, that's actually not the issue. It's a sales process issue, or it's a messaging issue, or it's a positioning issue, so that you can see results quickly and not lose trust with your audience and not lose traction and momentum on your way to your first $1 million year this year. So if that is your reality and you want help with that, DM me the word sales over on Instagram, because I would love to talk with you guys about that. Or if you ever have questions about this topic, what data to be looking at to diagnose the problem on your own, anything like that, make sure you send those questions to me over on Instagram. And just in general, tell me like what your favorite part of this episode was, because I love hearing from you guys about that. And on top of that, it helps me make sure I can create even better episodes for you guys in the future. So I appreciate you sticking with me and listening to this episode, and I'll see you guys soon. Mwah! Bye, guys.